Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. This is Renegade Operative here, and this is a review of Until Dawn. This has kind of been on my mind for a while now, but I put it on the back burner for a couple of weeks. I didn't quite drop the $60 on this game yet, just because I reserved that honor consciously for Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain, and if you haven't checked out my first impressions of that, it should be live on my channel soon enough. Although, the opportunity that Redbox presented to me after 2 days and a measly $6 spent, I managed to get my hands on this and complete the full campaign of Until Dawn. So, I feel firmly ready to give you my overall thoughts on what I think is the first foray into a massive game that's been long in development, ironically done by Supermassive Games. Without further distractions on what it took to get my hands on this title, here's my long-awaited review of Until Dawn for the PS4. Upon talking about the story, I'll try to leave it as non-spoilerish as possible for you guys, but to give you a basic outline, the plot at hand is we take control of a group of 9 teenagers, all with unique and quite differing personalities to each other. Eventually, a tragic accident happens in the beginning of the game that leads them back to the scene of the crime at the Lodge Resort a year later. A family friend who was involved with the particulars in the accident decides to invite his friends back there for a good time, with the very mystery of what really happened still circulating around the group. The usual unsuspecting trope that comes within horror films and slashers definitely seeps into the open, and then a barrage of danger and chaos throws itself into the mix at our young heroes, putting them in harrowing situations at its fullest conventions. I thought that the story of Until Dawn at the beginning had a lot of high notes. I thought that most of the cliches involved was pretty evident amongst the characters, but it was just a lot of dumb fun to enjoy. We got to see the dumb jock in action, and we got to see the beauty pageant bitch doing what she does best, and I thought that was pretty cool to see. Some characterizations here or there in particular even shift to more heroic standards than Until Dawn, so it's good to see that certain people weren't just fodder for the hell of it, and you can actually root, care, and vastly hate for the people you see in Until Dawn. I felt invested into what I was receiving in this mostly story-driven experience. It had enough post-pounding suspense and quintessential touches even to your psyche for fourth wall breaking actions that you perform deep within the game. The second half does sort of take a nosedive, with another element introduced into the mix involving supernatural affairs. I don't think Supermassive Games masked that particularly too well, because when it comes to the point of the story being laid upon your lap, you'll feel no imminent danger from the first part at all because of it. And since this game prides itself on achievements of replayability, to go through different scenarios, it made the first half feel a bit redundant when things hit the fan again for your second playthrough. Although for what's there, the second half does ramp the tension up significantly in place of this disappointment, because this is where your choices and decisions start to critically matter at this point of the experience. The gameplay department of Until Dawn is a little weak in some regards. You do sort of have to take it for what it's trying to accomplish, but that's not to undermine the obvious. As usual with these exploration and adventure type games, the gameplay usually just serves to take a backseat to the things going on in the story. You'll get a lot of slow and uninteresting walking as you get to your destination from point A to point B and investigate what the hell has really been going on at this lodge. The game is certainly akin to Quantic Dream's Heavy Rain that has thus coined the title interactive drama, and this game is pretty much no different from that except with the inclusion of some new scenarios and maybe some stuff with the light bar, with remaining perfectly still as they incorporated this into the DualShock 4. I don't think it was the most groundbreaking in terms of gameplay, honestly, and I wish they implemented a run button just to run a little bit faster in some segments when it just comes to clearing out clues and you just want to get to the next place already. I'm not going to lie to you guys, this whole forced walking thing feels very monotonous at this point, just to go from place to place, just feverishly walking around like you were on autopilot all the time. Although the investigation aspects are petite little touches, petite little additions that I did enjoy, like the totem system and the butterfly effect also coming into play, really helped things out a lot when it comes to the intrigue. These systems basically let me know when I could possibly either save a character, when I could either possibly know if a character is in danger, or when a character could possibly die, and I could possibly prevent that from happening if I do something different while I'm getting that vision. And the butterfly effect is a huge cause and effect implementation where the smallest possible decision can have the biggest consequences. In my first playthrough, I definitely made some mistakes that weren't noticeable at all to me at first, and I could see others going back and replaying this game and fixing a lot of the damage that they did by saving a lot of teams that they actually like and leaving some to actually die at the hands of a lot of nasty things. Cough, cough, Emily. But I will say that the core game certainly pays off in the end for what it chooses to do. The controls for the most part didn't feel too instructive. Usually you're just either walking around with the held button or promptly adding more clues to your pause screen, and the stylish yet minimalist menus do serve as easy navigation. The only gripe that I possibly had was with one of the more unique aspects that they added to the mix, and that's the light bar sensor. Man, this thing is finicky as hell if you're trying to do things legit by keeping it steady during the don't move segments. So I will say, as a word of advice, you're better off just putting your controller on the floor and riding the wave when those prompts come up, because I got mighty aggravated every time I failed one, and it's just going to come up over and over and over again. But other than that, your standard fares here in terms of QTEs, pressing buttons, responding to actions accordingly, and it didn't feel vastly terrible, which is certainly noteworthy to appreciate. The graphics in Until Dawn are some of the most absolutely stellar graphics I have seen and witnessed for myself. I would even go as far as to say that this is the most pretty and astounding thing to look at on the PlayStation 4 to date. I thought that it would be hard for anyone in the first party department to really visually top refined titles akin to something of the Order 1886 or how Uncharted 4 is shaping out to be. But it appears like other first party Sony devs are taking the reins to make these games look the best they possibly can appear. The little things count for me, and I believe with Until Dawn that's evident when you see the subtle things like particle effects, snow, water, the precise movement of how everything was up to snuff, the darkly atmospheric textures and the lighting that blended in so nicely. It was nothing short of polishing that PlayStation eye candy. It almost looked like a photorealistic centerpiece that didn't feel too sloppy or outdated or out of place on what it took to get the ball rolling. There were no major graphical glitches in my initial playthrough, thank God, so I really don't have anything to say in that department. I will say though that nothing is certainly perfect and that there were some minor gripes. The obvious elephant in the room is that the frame rate from what I have played had its occasional drop here or there. Certainly it was more frequent than I realized, and I hope they make some kind of patch to address that occasional chugging. Another thing that is minor is some of the facial animations seem to stall for a little bit too long than necessary, really giving you that uncanny valley sense when you look at some of the faces in these twisted, awkward, caveman-like glares, and you just figure, no way this could be realistic as one would initially realize. Maybe it's just bad mocapping stuck in there one way or the other, but it was easy for me to spot at times. One issue that I really have that is the highest on the list is the frame rate. I can't say if that was a huge oversight by the team or not, but it just made some areas and segments feel like the immersion was sucked out of it due to the choppy frames. The sound itself was very top notch, and the effects and main theme of Old Death singing through the title creepily sent a shiver up my spine. The voice acting was also well crafted, and when the emotions got going, when the going got rough, when the feelings kicked in of having the likes of the big Hollywood names like Brett Dalton and Hayden Panettiere on board, they certainly served the service. While the dialogue can get very hokey with particular new generational cracks seeping through, It never felt too extremely forced or rendered the most tense situation too unbelievable within audio bounds. They did a great job here for what they were presented. For the replay value segment of this game was about 6 hours long for me in terms of what could be easily knocked out of the park in one sitting if you're feeling a little impatient and you just want to bulldoze through the game. The core replay value fundamentally lies on multiple replays to get differing outcomes for trophies. Just like Heavy Rain, usually doing something different that you didn't think of doing before, letting all those teens die or live, finding all the death totems will contribute to finding some things that you didn't discover before. You might want to go back and witness those scenes. But this would probably add a good couple of hours to the product's life, but other than that, it would be deemed not the best replay value in my opinion, since beyond that, you'll probably shelve the game once you have saw everything there is to see, and that's kind of the pitfall of the interactive dramas. Once you go back and see the alternate scenes, there's not going to be much to experience, unlike other games that have New Game Plus or newer challenge modes to pad the length longer. The final verdict is that for this genre, Until Dawn has broken the chains of its initially doomed fate as a PS Move title on the PS3 and has transcended itself with much better ideas in mind on the PlayStation 4. However, there is still certain thresholds and performance issues that felt like the experience was stabbed almost midway through. Despite those concerns, it still was a strong outing for this title with such a great cast of individuals that breathes welcome light into the interactive drama medium, and the development cycle of the PS3 to the PS4 was one of those rare instances that helped the game become bigger and better. If you want some dumb fun with plenty of friends over on the weekend and they want to see plenty of cliched shit with teens getting their eyes gouged and torn to bits while you just sit there and take in the hilarity of what's going on, especially with the dialogue and how clueless some of them are, then you're in for a welcome treat, especially if you love teen horror. But I had a lot of fun with this game for what it accomplished as well, and I would like to see a sequel. There's always room for improvement. However, if you're not familiar with the interactive drama medium and you're looking for some more hearty gameplay to experience than this, then this might not be the game for you, being so cinematic. Overall, give it a rental and see if it's worth that much to try it out for yourself. But as for me and my experience, I'm going to give Until Dawn an honest 3.5 out of 5. Slightly above average, but a fitting score in my opinion.